Okay, guys, welcome back to Bet on Black. This is the final episode of season 1. Usually I would be here with someone else, but today it is just me. This wasn't the original plan. The original plan was to do 5 episodes, and I did not want to be really on camera. I didn't want to do anything direct to camera like this. But as I was going through the process, I've just learned so much in this journey, and I think it's really important to share with other people, like just my reflections, the feedback that I've gotten, sort of give back to the people that have poured into me. So in this episode, we're going to get into why Bet on Black, why a podcast, why am I doing this, right? How did I start? How did the idea come to me? Who has helped me in the process? Again, like I said, feedback that I've gotten from the people that I'm working with, but also people like consumers of the podcast, the amazing guests that I've had on the show, and also how much I've spent, because this was a pretty penny, and the reasons why we're doing seasons and the format of everything. So to start off, I don't even know where to start. So I'll just start off with why I did this. So in the last few months, honestly, the last maybe year, ever since I graduated, to be honest. So I graduated 2022 from Georgetown University, and I immediately went to go work at Glamour magazine as the assistant to the editor-in-chief, which has been really great. It's been a really eye-opening experience. I've had a lot of amazing opportunities, and it's very glitz and glamour and all of that stuff. I've been able to tell really important and impactful stories, but there is a part of me that wanted to tell stories that were genuine and important to me. And all the time, every single time, that's going to be about Black people. And, you know, when you work for a legacy media company, you can't just write about Black people all the time, right? You got to write about everything, right, that people are interested in. And so I've always had this need and want and interest in highlighting our people. And, you know, since I've graduated, since I've been sort of a grown-up girl in New York, living on my own, going out in New York City, I've met the most amazing people. I've met the most creative people, the people who really just inspire me, and the people that I'm like, everybody else should know about you. Like, I shouldn't be the only person that knows what you're doing. I'm talking photographers, DJs, other podcasters, just people doing their own thing, and they're doing it well. And so a lot of what I want people to get out of the podcast was, you can do it too, right? Like, if these people are doing it, if you have an idea, you can also do it. But I can't look at other people and admire them and then not fulfill what I want to do, right? That's a bit hypocritical. So in the last few months, like I was saying, I was really unhappy. I just felt very weighted. I felt stuck. I felt like I wasn't moving in my career, in my life. I know I'm only 24, so it's not like the end of the world. I know I still have a lot of life to live, but the type of person that I am is I can take time to relax and chill and be humble and have grace for myself, but I know I have so much more to achieve. I know I have so much more to offer the world that I'm always just thinking of new ideas, right? So, over winter break, I was in this class, this Glow Up Girl class with Jodie Taylor, who's an influencer on TikTok, and it was her first class of that sort, and I met these amazing women who are in corporate or they're doing their own thing. Every week we would meet and we would talk about ways that we wanted to improve our lives, either like physically, socially, personally, career-wise, and I didn't know when I first started the class that I was going to do this podcast. It first started with, what's my personal brand, right? I didn't want my personal brand to just be connected to my day job, because that's not all that I have to offer. And then I started thinking, what do I like? I always get complimented on the fact that I speak very well and I have a nice voice, which is like kind of a weird compliment, but like it's an appreciated compliment. But I love podcasts. I feel like I'm jumping all over the place, but this is just a conversation between me and you, right? And so I have a passion for podcasts. Anybody that knows me knows that I listen to podcasts constantly. At one point, I was listening to more podcasts, and I was listening to even just like albums and artists that were coming out with music. And my first podcast I listened to I remember it was 2016 maybe. It was Pod Save America. It was around the time of the 2016 election. It was an easy way to digest the information. I literally went to one of their live shows in DC. Like, I was obsessed with them. I listened to Pod Save America, Pod Save the People, Pod Save the World, all of them. Now I listen to true crime. There's a lot of true crime podcasts that I love, a lot of society and like relationship podcasts that I like to listen to. But my point in saying that is, I'm trying to show you guys how everything kind of came together, right? And so it came from my love and passion of podcasts, right? My love and passion for Black people and the Black community and creatives of color. And it also came from me feeling stuck, right? And wanting to do a passion project. This is what this is. One of the reasons why it's one season so far is because I didn't want to put too much pressure on myself as I was doing this. I told myself, you're doing this to show yourself that you can do this. And I feel like a lot of times what prevents people from just starting is the pressure and the fear of criticism and external validation. And I still had all of that going into it. Trust me, just because this was a passion project did not mean that I didn't care what people thought. But I also thought, if I don't like it, if I don't want to continue it, like, then it's just a season. It's just a season. It's just an Instagram page. It literally, in a year, people will not remember this if I do not want to continue with it. Delete it from my bio, like delete the page. Like, it really doesn't need to be like this whole big thing if I don't want it to be. So that really helped with the process. But just because it was a passion project did not mean that this was going to be some scrappy, like garbage, sort of like haphazard situation. Like, no, if I was going to put out something, it was going to be very well done. It was going to be very well thought out, and I was going to do my research. And so that research started with talking to people. One of the first people that I talked to was one of my coworkers called Stephanie. Even though this is something completely outside of my day job, I still understand the resources that I have there in terms of the people that I'm networking with. So I sent a little Slack. I said, hey girl, I did a hey girl text, hey girl Slack. And I said, I'm thinking of starting a personal podcast. I would love any tips, any advice, whatever. And she sat down with me, sort of asked me questions. And in these conversations that I was having with people, every time they would ask a question, it forced me to come up with an answer, right? So if it was something that I didn't have the answer to, it was like, okay, well, I need to know the answer to this, right? So she was one person that was really instrumental in the beginning. Of course, my producer, Jordan. Was really, really helpful. I remember the first time I hit her up, we had connected through Gabe, which is the first podcast that I was ever on and which introduced me to UTF Media Studios, and it felt more accessible in that way. I'm really, really glad that I got that opportunity. But when I talked to her, you know, she sat down with me at a coffee shop and we just talked about what I was going to do, like what the idea was, what platforms to use. And I already knew that I wanted her to be my producer throughout the whole thing, and that has been the case. Like, I have scheduled all my episodes around her availability because, one, I think you always have to give back. These episodes are putting money in her pocket. All these things that I'm doing, right, are contributing to the ecosystem that I'm saying that I want people to bet on themselves, right? And then I have to shout out my roomie, Camila. She was one of the first people that I talked to about the project. I was very tight-lipped at first, right? You don't want everyone to know what's going on, right? Like, you gotta look, there's a lot of energies out there. And when you're starting something new, something that's so precious to your heart, you really just can't be telling everyone. But I told her about it, and she's just always so excited for me. And when you are starting these new things, it's so important to have people that are excited for you, that are like happy for you, that you can bounce ideas off of, and that just pour into you. When people say find people that pour into you, like my roommate is one of those people. So very, very happy for her. And then lastly, I just want to shout out all the guests that I had on the podcast, from Ellie to Sam to Maxine to Gabe to Georgina. I remember Ellie was the first person that I wanted to interview. I knew that already. If you watch the episode, he's an amazing photographer. We had met before my day job. He's just so inspiring. The work that he does is truly, truly, not to be dramatic, but like gonna change the world. Like, he really shoots very beautifully. When I was reaching out to people, I was nervous because I'm asking people to take a chance on me, right? And because at this time I didn't have an Instagram page, I barely had a logo, I didn't have any questions or anything like that. I was just sort of coming up with things as I go. But I put myself out there, and Ellie said yes. And he sent this very, very sweet message, which was just like, he doesn't usually do podcasts. I think he's done one other podcast before, but because he believes in me, he believes in my mission and what I'm doing, that he was going to come on the podcast. And that just really means a lot. I feel really grateful that all of the people that I had on took a chance on me, because again, like, if you're the guest, you don't know what it looks like yet. You're really trusting the vision. You're trusting me to portray you well, to ask the right questions, to social cut downs, all those things, right? So props to them. Okay, so now we're going to talk about the format. I knew when I started, like I mentioned before, that I wanted to do seasons. One of the reasons why I wanted to do seasons is because it's freaking expensive to record and produce and do all these things, okay? Especially if you want to be sitting in this seat that I'm sitting in right now, in this beautiful studio that I've gotten so many compliments on. It's an investment. And one of the conversations that I had with Jordan in the beginning was, what things do I invest in, right? Like, do I need video, or can I just do audio? At first, I just wanted to do audio. Then through conversations I had with her and other people, I realized it's very paramount for the growth of your podcast to have video in this day and age. You just really cannot have an audio only podcast unless you're like super strong already. One, because of YouTube, and two, because of social cut downs, right? I knew I wanted a heavy social presence, and so it didn't make sense to pay for the video but then not use the full hours. I was trying to think of all these different ways that I could do it. I could film the social clips separately, and it just, with everything else that I had to think about with this podcast, right, because it's really just me that is doing it, I couldn't then think about hiring a separate film crew to film something separately. Like, let's just do the podcast, film one time, cut it down one time. Because I'm a fan of podcasts, I'm a consumer of it, I have been able to figure out what I like and what I don't like from certain podcasts, right? So, for example, Baby It's Kiki Palmer, Higher Learning with Van Lathan and Rachel Lindsay. Those are the two that come to mind right away, but both of those shows on Spotify have video episodes. And I personally love to watch that. I used to be really heavy into YouTube, like watching podcasts on YouTube. Now I don't. Now I just listen to on the app. But when they do have the video episode, I always watch the video. And because I like it, I was like, hey, this is my thing. Like, I get to decide what I want to do. I think a lot of people like it. Like, I think a lot of people didn't know that really existed. And I hopefully the more that Spotify continues to push that, maybe that helps my podcast. I don't know. It's always good to be on the forefront of things, right? Even if it means taking like sort of the extra step. So I'm going to be frank with you guys. This studio, a multi-angle 1 hour session, is $225. It's a lot for me and my bank account. I'm a 24-year-old assistant living in New York City with Donald Trump raising these prices and the tariffs. Like, this is not necessarily the best time to start like a passion project, to be honest, right? Especially one that I want to have good quality and all that stuff. But seeing the reception from the feedback on the audio being really, really good, the video being really, really good, the aesthetics of the browns and everything going together, it's an investment that I would make again and again. But I also have to be realistic with myself of that I don't want to go into debt doing this podcast. And so that means, okay, so I'm going to do 5 or 6 episodes, see the reception, get the feedback, go back to the drawing board. There's also things I want to change, right? Which we'll get into later. So the seasons give me a good break to do that, but it also gives me time to recuperate my coins a little bit. So the other big thing, right, is what platform are you using? What editing software are you using? That was another question that I had for Jordan, that I had for Stephanie, that I had for people who work on podcasts. Because, going back in time, I had a podcast in college, like maybe it was the summer before my senior year of college, and I basically had a summer where I wasn't up to anything. I didn't have an internship. Mind you, this is the summer before your senior year. Like, this is the summer where you're supposed to have the internship to, like, who gives you the return offer, and that's where you know where you're going, right? I did not have an internship, and I was at home, and I was like, fuck, what am I gonna do, right? So I decided to do a podcast through the Blacksa, which I was the editor-in-chief of that magazine while I was in school. It was called Checking In with Monique. I used GarageBand and Zoom to interview with people, and I edited it myself. It was audio only. But even looking back, like, technically that is my first podcast. Like, there was 3 or 4 episodes on that. I didn't continue it, but it's something that I've always wanted to go back to, right? Going into this experience, I wanted the editing to be on a better caliber, but the editing softwares are also very fucking expensive. I don't know if you're getting the theme here, but everything is very fucking expensive, especially when you're the only person doing it, right? Like, a lot of podcasts that you see, there's 2 people, right? And so those 2 people a lot of times maybe would split a lot of the costs of certain things, or split up time put towards certain things. Maybe one person edits while another person does the social, while another person does this. I'm doing all of it myself, right? So I'm looking around. There was Adobe Premiere Pro, that's like $500 a year. There's DaVinci, there's like all these other softwares, CapCut, Final Cut. I landed on Riverside, which is connected to Spotify. That experience has been interesting. I'll give you the pros and cons real quick. So the pros is that they transcribe the script for you. So if you want to cut from the words, if that makes sense, you can do that. So like, I wasn't used to that. So that was a interesting little curveball. Like I said, I had my own podcast. I had a YouTube channel before, so I was used to splicing and cutting like tracks and moving things around. I know how to do that. But with Riverside, you're really using the transcript to cut from there, which made it wonky because you can't really go in there and edit the way that you would want to. Like little and things like that. Like, you just, when you really need to get like the milliseconds of things, you can't really get in there, which was a bit frustrating at times. But the transcript made it easier for sure. Like, it made it a little quicker. Once you're done editing, there's also an AI component that Riverside has that they can make social cut down, like they call it magic clips. So they can make social cut downs from your video. You can decide how long you want them to be. It's just automatically. And so that's been really helpful for, again, I'm doing this all myself. So it does help to have that done. And I'll go back in there and edit it and make sure it's really perfect. But they kind of do the first step for me. If you have Pro, if you pay for it, which is like $288 a year. If you have Pro, then you have access to AI chapters. They make the chapters for you. They give you the keywords. They give you everything. Would love to use a different platform, again, to get really specific and really granular into the editing process. All right. I might get canceled for this, but ChatGPT, like, shout out to ChatGPT. Like, I'm sorry, like, throughout this entire process, ChatGPT has been very helpful to obviously not give me ideas. Like, this is my fucking idea. Like, don't get it fucking twisted. But to, like, just help me articulate things a bit better. And again, being a solo person doing this, I don't have people that I can really bounce things off of all the time, right? And in those like midnights where you're just up at night thinking about, oh, like, what should the segment ideas be? And like, I feel like it's really gotten to know my voice. And so I'll literally just say like, no, make it less cringy, like make it less corny, make it more this, make it more that. Even figuring out like what times are the best times to post on social and like all those like more technical parts of the process. ChatGPT has been really helpful for that, and I don't pay for that. That is free. So that's been really nice. I also want to talk about the social media part of things, right? And that makes me go to Canva. Canva, we're locked in. We're locked in, Canva. Like, I have been using Canva since college for little presentations here and there, like, you know, whatever. But using it for a business or a project like this, it has been so helpful. And I think the founder is now like a billionaire or something, which like, she deserves that. She fucking deserves that because it has been such a lifesaver. They have so many tools, so many ways that you can categorize things. And for example, at first I signed up for Canva Teams. What's your brand palette? What's your brand logo? So you're really conceptualizing what your brand identity is on Canva, right? And through that, I was just able to formulate a lot of the graphics that way. I will shout out Channing, who used to work with me. She created the logo, which I've also gotten a lot of compliments on. But other than that, I shared with her, what the color scheme was going to be. I wanted it to be very browns, very neutrals, very warm, very cozy, very comfortable. And I hope that you see that in obviously the set that we're in right now, but also on the social media feed. Looking to season 2, I definitely know ways that I want to change how the social looks. Going into it, I thought I knew what I wanted to look like. Now, having all the episodes out and seeing how it looks on the feed, it got a little... There needs to be a bit more consistency with certain things. So I'll leave it at that. But stay tuned for season 2. There'll be a little bit of a rebrand, reshift. Nothing too crazy, but it'll just look more uniformed. But that's why it's great to have these sort of learning lessons, because now I know what I like and what I don't like. If I had never tried, I would never know that, right? So also taking inspiration from a lot of other podcasts and their social media and what I like and what I don't like. A lot of the ones that I've really been looking at is She's So Lucky Pod with Les Alfred. She also went through a major rebrand while I was starting this project, so that was very interesting to look at. And then Your Favorite Auntie's Pod by Marlon Carlos, I think. Marlon Carlos. She used to be an editor at Essence or Ebony. Now she has her own podcast, and I just really like the vibe, the aesthetic of it. But you can take inspiration without copying, right? And so my podcast, my feed is going to look particular to Bet on Black. With social media, another challenge is, I just want to say props to the social media managers. I never really understood. I mean, I always knew it was a lot. And I knew that's why I didn't want to do that as a job. But like doing it for this project, oh my gosh, like, you not only are you creating the graphics, right? And then you have to format them for reels, for feed, for whatever, for YouTube, thumbnails, right? So you're doing that. And then you have to put it all together, write the caption, find the hashtags that are really gonna like you, because you want it to reach people, right? So you have to find good captions. Then once it's uploaded, now you have to make sure that you're reposting it on, I have to repost it on not only the Bet on Black's page, but my personal page, because I know a lot of people who are interested in the podcast follow me and are going to engage more with me than maybe the podcast page. And then responding to comments, engaging. And now Instagram has a lot of different features that they have, like polls and prompts and figuring out which one you want to use. The best part has been the schedule posts in the Instagram feed. Like, I love that feature. That has been a lifesaver. It still does catch me off guard when I schedule something like the day before and I forget about it, and then I see it on my page and I'm like, oh shit, like, did I do this right? And I did, but yeah, so that has been really challenging, and just figuring out what's the first clip that I want to put out that I'm going to collaborate with the guest on, right? Because I want it to be something that people are really gonna gain from, but also that's gonna represent them well. Like, this is not like a gotcha game. Like, this is not like a, obviously I want this podcast to do fucking well, but like, it's not gonna do well based on controversial comments. Like, we're not doing that. A lot of the clips that I post are very inspirational, talking about the person's journey, which has been really great. And I love when I see people engaging. I love when I see people who I know engaging, but also when the guests community engages. It's really the best thing to see. The last thing I'll say on social media and the production, editing, processing side of things is a content calendar. I tried to have a content calendar. I tried to be as organized as I could be before I launched my first episode, right? But again, there's only so much you know until you actually do it. Looking back, now I'm going to know how to organize my time better to make sure that, because this is not the only thing I'm doing, right? 1, I have a job. 2, I have a life. So like, this is something I want to do well, but it's not the only thing that I'm doing. So looking to season 2, it's going to mean, okay, Monique, you know yourself. You know that Sundays are your days where you just sit at home and do nothing, right? You go to church and then you come back. So maybe those are the days that you upload the video to the platform, let it process. Because that's another thing. When you got to download the video, then you have to upload the video to the software, and it has to process. Like, it doesn't just, like, 10 gigabytes doesn't just go up and it's automatically ready, right? So sometimes it takes a bit of time. Make sure your Wi-Fi is working. Make sure you got some strong Wi-Fi. That was a struggle in the beginning. There was corrupt files and stuff going on. But we figured it out, and so now I know. Go into the living room to upload the damn video. It's gonna take 3 hours, but it's okay. Once it's uploaded, everything should be pretty seamless from there. Like I was saying with the content calendar, certain days are for uploading. What day are you gonna do the first cut? I would always recommend a second cut. What's the day that you're gonna do the graphics? Maybe the days you're gonna do the reels and the captions, right? And space it out more. I was doing these things kind of like every week, so it was intense. That's another reason why I think bi-weekly will be it will be very helpful for me, just to be able to space everything out a bit more. But content calendars, get on that, know your schedule, know how you work, know how much time it will take to do everything. I've been talking for like maybe 40 minutes at this point. I don't want this episode to be long. This episode, again, is really just for me to reflect on everything that I've learned, to share my reflections with you guys, and to thank everyone that has supported me, that's been listening, that's been resharing. Thank you guys so much. Every time I put out things on Bet on Black, I'm in awe of how many people actually follow me and, like, not to be like keeps up with me, but are just looking at my stuff. And I've had people that have reached out from, like, there was this one guy, Stan, shout out Stan, who I think it was when the first episode dropped, and he DM'd me and he was like, I remember 3 years ago, it was like senior year of college, we were in the elevator together and you were just saying that you wanted to accomplish so much, and it's just been amazing to see you do that over this time. And I was just like, Stan, you're gonna make me fucking cry. Like, don't make me cry. Don't make me cry. Like, it really means a lot. I will say season 1, season 2, continue to keep engaging on social. That is, I feel like, the primary place where people engage with the content. But please also like everywhere. So like on YouTube, like on TikTok, rate, subscribe, leave a review, comment, because the goal, right, while I love my community and I love the people who support me, the goal is to also expand and to get a community outside of my primary community, right? A community that has found Bet on Black through Spotify, through Apple Podcasts, through YouTube, through TikTok, just more people, right? That's how you grow your audience. So that's the goal. So keep engaging, please. And thank you guys so much again. And stay tuned for season 2. It is coming very, very soon. And there might be something dropping between the seasons just to keep everyone on their toes, to keep people excited. But this is definitely not the last time you will see or hear from Bet on Black. Bye.